Okay, well, day one. Hopefully we can get off to a good start. We had a long way to go. Take it one step at a time. See if we can have a good day today.
So what are you hoping to get out of Jamie Collins this second time around?
I'm hoping the same thing for every player, that they'll go out there, compete, and earn whatever role they earn for the team. I can't control that for anybody.
Does he seem different at all coming back after a couple
He's been great. Yeah, Jamie's been great.
Bill, you have most of the 2018 draft class coming back off of injury. What will the challenge be of introducing those guys, plus so many rookies? You have a lot of players who don't have NFL game experience yet.
Yeah, just put them out there, let them compete like they've done all spring, and see how it goes.
Bill, I'm curious, we asked a little bit yesterday about some of the coaching changes, but as you guys go into this first practice for camp, I know you've had mini camp practices with this group, but do you guys as a staff have to almost have a pre-practice sort of practice in terms of how you're going to run things? Because I know one of the goals is to try to be as efficient as possible with the time.
Yeah, we always do that. Yeah, we always try to plan the practices, go through each drill, how it's going to be run. Even if we've done it 100 times before, we still where it's going to be set up and what one side of the ball is going to do or what the other side of the ball is going to do, just so we're prepared for it. So it's just part of normal preparation.
Is that in a meeting room somewhere? Do you anticipate any hiccups when you're actually on the field if you haven't? I assume you're not doing walkthroughs out on the practice field with the staff, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we've had however many practices it was, 10 in the spring. We're doing the same thing today as we did all spring, so. But there's always a few bumps in the road in training camp. That's part of training camp. We have a lot of people. We're doing a lot of different things, eating, sleeping, staying in a hotel, practices, walkthroughs, lifting. So there are things to work out with a large group of people. But overall, I think it's run well, and we have a lot of people in the organization that work hard on those operational aspects of it. And I think it goes pretty smooth. I've been in a lot of training camps, but overall, I think it functions pretty smoothly. It's never perfect, but it's functional.
Bill, what kind of a role do you envision for Braxton Berrios on this team?
Whatever he earns.
Slot receivers seem like a likely place for him.
If he earns it, I don't know. It's the same for every player. They have to earn their whatever role they have on the team. They earn it. I don't tell them what it is. The player has to go out and earn it.
Bill, did you have any qualms with how the Texans pursued Nick Caserio this offseason?
Yeah, I think that's all water under the bridge.
Are you at least pleased to have him back for the season?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having a good day out there on the practice field today and trying to string them together throughout the course of camp. That's what we're all here for.
Well, is there anything year to year that has changed about your approach to going into training camp?
Every year is different. So just got to try to do the best you can each year to maximize whatever the opportunities are. So every year is different.
But just to follow up on Henry's question, do you anticipate Nick having a similar role? We always see him, out there on the field, training camp, mini camp. Should we expect a similar role for Nick this summer?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, we have a number of changes. Have had a number of changes on the staff. Not everything will be exactly the same as it's been. It's not that way anyway. So, I'm sure a lot of things will be the same. There may be a few differences in. Differences for all of us. There's differences for me. There's differences for other coaches. So, sure, it'll be a little bit of both. Each year is a little bit different.
Could his experience, he's obviously a receivers coach for a little bit, maybe help in that? I know Joe Judge is taking on the receivers coaching responsibilities as well as the special teams abilities, but might Nick's experience in that regard help just as you guys transition?
Nick helps in a lot of ways. He has a lot of experience. He does much more than any other personnel person in the league does, with his added coaching responsibilities and interaction with the coaching staff. So, yeah, he's a great asset in a number of areas.
But he doesn't technically count as a general manager by league rules. I know there was some, like, you know how they have the rules about you can interview someone if they're technically a GM or if they have executive power over the roster. Does he have those powers?
They've got whatever the rules are, they are. I didn't write them. I don't, whatever they are, they are. Like, titles aren't the most important thing in the world around here to us. Winning is.
Does he have executive power over roster decisions? Or is that your power?
I have never talked about contracts. I'm not going to start talking about them now. So, I don't know why you would bring it up.
Just for clarification down the line.
There's no clarification. I'm not talking about contracts, period. Players, coaches, or anybody else's. Never have, and I don't plan to.
Well, Ty Law's induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame is coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend. I was wondering if you could just offer a few thoughts about not just his contributions as a Patriot, but, what really kind of underscores the importance and the worthiness of his selection to the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah, I've talked about Ty a lot. I mean, Ty was a great player for us, had a great career. I coached him as an assistant coach in '96 and as a head coach when I came back in 2000. So I think he's one of the top players in his position, certainly as good as anybody I've ever coached at that position. I would say, him and Walls. It was the end of Everson's career, so it was a little bit different. And Minifield's career in Cleveland, too. But he's a great player. He had a great impact on our team and our organization. I don't think we would have had the success we had without him. We would have had success, but he was a big part of it.
Especially because, you coached him when you were an assistant briefly, and then he had the years to develop a little bit more. As you came here as head coach and have a player like him in place with some other players that had experience at that time too, as you said, you're not sure whether you'd have the same success, but it was helpful, I'm sure, to have a player of his stature and to still be improving on that upward curve as you came in as head coach.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of good young players here in 1996. That was Brewski's rookie year. McGinnis was young, Malloy was young, Law was young, McGinnis, and then we added to that. Those guys are still here when I came back, and then we added the Vrabels and Colvins and Rodney Harrisons and Seymours and guys like that. So. Look, it's always good to have good players. And he was a very good one. Ty was tough. He would tackle. He could play against big receivers. And he was physical against guys that, the Marvin Harrisons of the world that were maybe a little quicker, but, Ty had great instincts and size and playing presence, and he matched up well against those type of players too, as well as Molds and, some of the big guys he covered.
What are some of the keys to finding your edge within your team, making sure they have kind of an edge as each year starts, especially when they're coming off winning a Super Bowl? What are some of the ways you just find that again?
Well, every year is its own year, so we start all over again every year. So we don't really worry about last year.
So do you reinforce that message every year, or do you think it's obvious by the way you behave and approach things?
I think every year is its own year, and you start from scratch and you build from the bottom up every year. So that's what we're doing.
Bill, training camp has changed a lot in the many years you've been in the league. Facilities, I would assume, nicer now than at Bryant College when you were there, let's say in '96, but 2-a-days in the past, now you guys just have one session. What do you prefer about training camp today versus, say, 20 years ago? What is harder for you as a coach?
Yeah, it's all relative, so we're all playing in the same rules. So we just have to do the best we can to take advantage of our opportunities and make the most that we can out of the opportunities that we get. So coaches, players, team, they're ready with, every team comes to camp at the same time. Every team has the same amount of preseason games and practices and padded practices and so forth. I mean, it's all standard. So we just have to do the best we can with what our opportunities are, and that's what we'll try to do. I'm sure it's what every other team will do. See where it turns out.
Bill, on that same light, the NFL has some new player safety rules for camp this year that outlaw certain drills, things maybe designed to protect offensive linemen in particular. Do you think those rules will change much of how you guys conduct training camp this year?
No, I don't think those really affect us and what the drills that we've done. But we'll certainly comply with them and make sure that there isn't an issue. But I don't think it'll affect us.
Along the same lines, have you had much discussion with Albert Ron about like the new pass interference replay rule and some of the rules this year?
Same thing as we always do. We meet with the officials in the spring. We'll meet with them again in training camp, and they're very good. If you have any questions or if you have clips and you send them to them, they'll tell you how the play would be called or ruled. So there's a good line of communication there. They've given us a lot of information. I'm sure there'll be questions along the way, but they're always good about answering them and getting right back to you. And so we can get on the same page, so we can coach it properly. We want to coach the play the right way, and in order to do that, we have to understand how it's being officiated. So I think there's always a good dialogue with them. I haven't ever heard of any issues about communication, or you might not like what you hear, but they're always good about telling you how it is and how they see it and how they're going to call it. Sometimes they change that, but then they tell you if there's going to be a change. So we need to understand the rules. The players need to understand them. We need to coach and play technique-wise within that framework.
Now that the pass interference replay rule has been finalized, just curious your thoughts on it and the idea that you can challenge penalties now and they can put a penalty on the field. What do you think of those additions now?
Don't really matter what I think. It's what the rule is, and we'll try to, like I said, understand it, use it, and apply it appropriately.
Does the process of coaching that play or that rule, I guess, start now, or will you wait to see how it'll be called when officials come
We're
to
going to
the
coach it based on our understanding of the rule, and then when we practice against Detroit and Tennessee, and the officials are there at those practices, I'm sure we'll communicate with them, and they'll tell us what they see. This was a foul, this wasn't a foul, this is okay, that wasn't okay. That's part of what training camp's for too, is to take a new rule or a new situation like that. Last year it was the kickoff rule. Again, it's more than one thing, but that was an example last year of the kickoff rule and kickoff situation of looking at their options on that, trying to apply them, and so forth. So, okay, all right, thank you.